Hey guys, welcome to this new video. Today we're gonna talk about Vietnamese expats living in Vietnam. Maybe it sounds strange and you don't really understand what I mean, but you're gonna find out very soon. And to dig into this subject, I invited Mai, who is originally from Saigon, and she moved to Hanoi about 2 years ago for family reasons. So recently, she left a job as a communication and marketing managers from a five-star hotel to start her own business. So in this video, she will discuss about the challenges of starting a business in Hanoi as a woman who is not a local, and as well as her journey moving from a very promising corporate career to an entrepreneur life. Let's get started. Hi Mai, I'm very happy to have you here to discuss today about your story and your experience. You've been studying and living in different countries such as Finland, Germany, Australia, and UK for your master degree. And with this great academic background and with your international experience, how was it to find opportunities in Vietnam when you first came back? And did you had any reversal cultural shock?
I think nowadays there are more and more, job opportunities for Vietnamese people who study abroad and then come back to Vietnam because there's an increasing number of foreign companies in Vietnam. And also actually the Vietnamese companies nowadays also value the skills of people who come back from abroad. And I personally think that companies have also realized that it's not just about the language skills or the certificates from a university abroad anymore, but it's more about, certain soft skills like the ability to work in a multicultural team or, the ability to adapt to changes quickly and so on, because these are the very skills that Vietnamese people who have worked and studied abroad are more likely to develop. So it will be not so difficult to find opportunities in Vietnam when you come back. And for when it comes to reverse counter shocks, I would say they are more like surprises to me rather than shocks because um, more or less, I already expected that there would be something unexpected coming when I came back to Vietnam and found a job. But these shocks are like, um, I think they are natural because of the difference in cultures. For example, Vietnam is pretty much a collectivistic culture, whereas in Western countries, people are more individualistic. And here, people kind of, I don't know how to say, but like people stick together and they make decisions. Sometimes they just want to make the same decision in a group. And also the hierarchy in Europe is kind of flat. I used to have an internship in Berlin in a startup. And in such an environment, like everyone seems to be the same. And I can just discuss everything with the person with the highest position in that company, although I was just an intern. But here in Vietnam, things are much more different, and the hierarchy is more clearly recognized by everyone in the company, and you need to show somehow some kind of respect towards people who have higher positions than you. Yeah. But these are, like I said, surprises that I was prepared to cope with. And I think lots of Vietnamese people nowadays who come back from abroad also realize that.
So I know that you've been quite successful in your corporate journey. After a few years returning to Saigon, you had to move again, and that time you had to settle in Hanoi for family purpose. How was your life in Hanoi from the eyes of a Saigonese who used to spend time in the south and in the west?
I have to be careful when I answer this question in order to avoid any stereotype, but there's a saying in Hanoi that you often hear people say. I don't know if you know it, but people say that Hà Nội không vội được đâu, which means that you just cannot rush here. And it's quite in contrary to life in Ho Chi Minh City. in Saigon, where people are like, I think in Saigon, in my previous company, for example, people generally share a sense of urgency. Like, it's like usually the workplaces are quite fast paced and people expect you to deliver what you say or what you are tasked with immediately. And people could just get used to that. And of course, it's just my personal experiences in some of the companies I've worked at, both in Saigon and in Hanoi. So I do not mean to make any, generalizations about any city or any people. But for Saigon, I think it's a great place for people to start a business or to start their first job, because it's so diverse, and the diversity is shown in the fact that there are all kinds of people you can meet in Saigon. You get to know a lot of different ideas, and when you have a new idea, however strange it seems to be, people will support you and people will encourage you to make it happen. And when I was still working in Saigon, I felt like every day I was learning something new. Every day I had a chance to meet new and interesting people. And I think that's the reason why people refer to Saigon as a very dynamic city. I think you also realize the same thing as you are living there. As for Hanoi, well, it's more traditional, but lately it has become like, it has also developed quite quickly. And I personally feel like there are some standards in Hanoi that usually people will avoid deviating from, even in workplaces. And for example, in my previous workplace in Hanoi, it was really hard to initiate and implement changes. And sometimes it has to do more with the people rather than the processes. So if you want to change a process, you first need to work on changing the mindsets of the people. That's the most important thing.
So this year you decided to start your own entrepreneurial project, making a new chapter in your professional life. What were the reasons and decisions at such a challenging time of this year? And what's the story behind this new entrepreneurial project?
When I was working in my previous position, I felt really stressed with work. And at that time, I actually decided to quit first. And then I just stay home, and I thought, maybe, I don't know if I should find a new job or just, find some freelance work in between. But then I realized that when I was still in Saigon, whenever I was stressed with work, I could go and sign up for these, short-term workshops or hobbies during the weekends. For example, there are different workshops in Saigon, like flower arrangement, painting, or baking, or cooking. And these workshops each last for only 2 or 3 hours, and they are mostly for relaxing purposes. So if you don't know anything, if you don't have any previous experience, you can still join. And those were really relaxing activities. And I just realized that there was no such thing in Hanoi at that time. So it was very difficult to find any such activity. During the weekend, people here mostly spend their time with their family, or go take a stroll in a shopping mall, or sometimes go walking around the lake. But because of the weather here, the summer is really hot and the winter is quite chill as well. It's also quite hard to exercise outdoor most of the time. So I thought, why not, if I cannot find any of such things in Hanoi, why don't I start something similar? So because I realized that there was a gap in the market, so I thought maybe that could be a viable business model. So I thought, yeah, I would just start it. And another reason, I think, is because at the moment I haven't had any attachment yet. I mean, I'm already married, but I haven't got any children, and I still have some kind of freedom for myself in terms of choosing the career path I want to pursue, or considering which job I can take or something. So I think maybe this is the time for me to work for myself and start something of my own, rather than continuing working for someone else. Yeah.
So I'm kind of aligned with your why and the reasons why you wanted to stop working for someone else to really launch your own project. Could you introduce a little bit more about your business and how everything got started?
My business is called Lemon Tree Baking Studio. So we provide a relaxing and fun space for people to regain their life balance through the activity of baking. So we hold various workshops, baking like through our baking classes, and you can join even if you have no previous baking experience. So you can be very clumsy in the kitchen normally, but when you come here, you can, bake a home cake. I mean, a home big cake by yourself with the instruction of our teachers. So most of our teachers are right now working at 5-star hotels in Hanoi. So they have the qualification, and the class atmosphere is very friendly, and the main point is for people to relax and make friends with each other and just enjoy themselves rather than putting so much focus on learning the new skills. So our studio is located on Dong Yu Tân Street, which is a main street in Hanoi, and it's very popular with young people and with foreigners as well, because there are a lot of restaurants and coffee shops and places to hang out around here. So this is quite a central location, and when people come here, they're already in the mood of exploring and chilling and so on. So the location is also great as well.
So we understand that it's a little bit more than just providing cooking classes, and it's also really a certain experience that you want to bring to your customer. Can you share with us maybe a little bit around, take the camera and go around so we can see the real bakery and the coffee place?
Oh, yeah, sure. So I will just move the camera so that you can see the space. So this is actually kind of like our living room. Can you see it? Yeah, so
Yeah.
this is the coffee table area. It overlooks the green balcony, and this is a place where the participants can sit and relax before the class. And also during the class, when we have breaks, then we will serve coffee and tea and some snacks for the class participants, and the teacher will also join them to explain what they might not be understand during the class, and people can just chill and chit chat with each other. So we want to make this space more like an opportunity for you to hang out with your friends. It's like when you come here, you make new friends and you feel really like an occasion where you hang out with your friends and you have fun rather than participating in a formal class. So yeah, and this is the central table where the class takes place. So you can see that we have all the baking utensils already on the table and the ingredients as well. So one of the perks of studying here is that you can just come here and focus on enjoying yourself and learning how to bake. You don't need to take care of the boring parts, such as waiting on the ingredients or preparing all the utensils or washing up afterwards, because we take care of all that and you just need to enjoy. And we have a floor to ceiling window over here. So you can bake and then you can look out of the window. There are some birds chirping, and the view is a bit romantic, I would say. So it provides a relaxing atmosphere for people.
So my here on your back we see the logo Lemon Tree. Why did you decide to take that name?
Yes. So I'll go back to my table. Yeah, so lemon tree, actually lemon is a very symbolic fruit. First of all, it symbolizes cleanliness. So you can see that there are a lot of cleaning products that use lemon as the symbol. So we want to provide a space that is really clean and really bright for people. It's similar to, decluttering your mind. If you are in a space where everything is neat, everything is in its place, and you feel like, okay, it's refreshing and it's decluttering and you feel more relaxing. The second symbol of lemon is healing. So in ancient times, people used lemon and some honey as well, I believe, as a form of healing when people are ill, when people are sick. So healing here that we want to refer to does not only cover physical healing, but also mental healing as well. Of course, we're not a meditation class or something, but while people are engaging in the baking activity, we want them to focus on, their motions. They need to focus on whether the dough is soft enough, whether whether the cake is rightly positioned, whether the cream is whipped to the right texture, and so on. So you need a certain sense of concentration and a certain sense of, I would say, mindfulness when you engage in the baking experience. And for a lot of our class participants, I know that outside of the class, before they step into our class, they might have a lot of stress in their life, maybe with work or maybe with their family. I don't know, but the moment they step into our studio, I want them to leave all their stress and worries outside, and they just enjoy the space, they just enjoy themselves and the moment. And that is the experience that we want to bring about when it comes to healing. And also lemon, the yellow color is very bright and it represents brightness, hope, and positivity. So we want to send a lot of positive vibes through the activity of baking that people have here. So during the class, the teacher will not be like, okay, I'm the teacher, you have to listen to what I say. And that's not the experience we want to deliver. The teacher will be just another friend who shows you how to do this, how to do that, and will chit chat with you. And the whole atmosphere is friendly and cozy. So we're not like any other training schools or any other, baking classes for professionals. We're just, a space where you can, enjoy the moment, enjoy the community, and you feel like you can be yourself. You don't need to, try hard to meet society standards or something like that.
So Mai, you told us that you got this idea while living in the South. Is there other baking classes in Hanoi, and what's your differences compared to your competitors?
There are actually a lot of baking classes in Hanoi, but most of them are training schools or professional classes for people who want to learn and then open their own bakery shops, or later they work in restaurants or they work in hotels. So our classes are for everyone, for novices, for people with no experience, or even if you already have a certain level of experience in baking, you can just come here and enjoy the baking activity with other people. So the aim is not to learn the skills of baking so that you can become a professional baker. The aim is to connect with others and ultimately connect with yourself through the activity of baking. And actually, it's still quite hard to explain to people in Hanoi this concept, because some people still come to us and ask, do you have any like baking courses that last for like 3 months or 6 months, and we want to learn 20 different types of cakes, something like that. And some people even ask us if we provide any certificate after completing the courses, or do we give them any reference if they applying to be a baker in a hotel or something like that. So we then have to explain to them, and obviously our target customers are quite different as well. So our customers have a lot of different backgrounds. Some are like, housewives wanting to bake a cake on her kid's birthday. Some are very busy banking employees who only have like half a day during the weekend that they are free. So they come here and they relax. And some other are like, teenagers who want to try something new and to explore whether they could do baking in the future, something like that. So yeah, it's the very diverse experience that makes Lemon Tree unique and different from the other baking classes in Hanoi.
So we met at a soft skill training course in Saigon, and the first experience I got from you was that you had a very great communication skills, creativity, as well as confidence. I'm sure that with those qualities, you would excel in everything that you would try to do. So now, what would be your advice for other Vietnamese expats, aka southern or other regions of Vietnam, or even foreigners going to Hanoi to work and to adapt efficiently?
I think, first of all, you need to avoid all the stereotypes that people make about Hanoi. So, for example, many people say that there is no opportunity in Hanoi. If you want to do business, then you should come to Saigon. It's a more dynamic place. There will be more, financial opportunities, for example. But actually, even if that is true, then it means that there are still a lot of gaps in the market in Hanoi that your product or your service can fill there, and it means that there are a lot of demands for Hanoi customers that you can meet with your products. I just think that there are an equal number of opportunities in Hanoi if you want to start your business. As long as you try to understand the market and you do proper market research beforehand, then it will be good. The one thing that people should be aware of before starting a business in Hanoi or working in Hanoi is the amount of bureaucracy that you need to cope with. And it is part of the country in general, and especially in this city. So if you get used to it, then it should be okay. And I have realized that there are a lot of young people, very talented young people in Hanoi as well. So if you come here for the first time, you start a business, it would be good to have a large network. So try to go to as many networking events as possible, try to get to know the locals. And that's the fastest way that you can understand the local culture. Because usually the expats in Hanoi, they live in certain areas and they have their own communities. But if you want to understand the local people, then you should engage more with the local activities, and maybe just go down a local market or just go to the park and observe people, what they do in their life. There's one thing that I find really interesting. There are a lot of lakes in Hanoi, which is quite different from Saigon. I love all the lakes here, and every day there are like, I think, hundreds of people who do exercise around the lake, and especially the Hoan Kim Lake, which is the one in the center of Hanoi. And if you take a walk there during the autumn in the evening, you will see like old people and very young children and people like middle age, and then 20 to 30-year-old people just walking together as a family or chit-chatting together and so on. But that scene I don't see very often in Saigon, because in Saigon usually old people group together and young people together. So like the sense of family connection seems to be stronger here in Hanoi. And if your product somehow targets or is relevant to that market, then it will be very interesting to realize that. So yeah, basically just engage more with the local customers and observe what is happening around you in Hanoi. So it will be good.
Thanks, Mai, for your insights about your journey going back to Vietnam, as well as your advice for Southern Vietnamese who would like to go to the north, as well as foreigners who would want to settle in Hanoi. I will leave in the description the link of Lemon Tree, so of the Facebook page. So if you guys are interested and want to reach Mai, you can check everything below.
Yeah, thank you very much for the interview, and it was great to share with you about my experiences. And
Thanks
yeah,
again, Mai, for all your sharing, and I see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Been down and I'ma get it right. Dead on sight like